Sultana Sam Vinyard, row upon row of carefully tended vines, stretching over 60 acres of Sunraysia, the heart of Australia's dried fruit industry. But there's more to Sultana Sam Vinyard than meets the eye. As well as being a major centre for dried fruit production, Sultana Sam has also become one of Sunraysia's top tourist attractions. The property has been owned and managed by the Fitzgibbon family for over 40 years, although its history dates back to the early pioneer settlers, and many of the vines first planted in those early days are still producing bountiful fruit more than a century later. For John Fitzgibbon and his family, the dried fruit industry is more than just a way of life or a major dollar earner in overseas markets. The way the Fitzgibbons see it, properties like Sultana Sam Vinyard are an important part of Australian history, past, present and future. And their remarkable success story is one which should be shared and enjoyed by everyone. It's not hard to see where Sultana Sam Vinyard got its name from. The Sultana grape is the main variety grown throughout the district, producing over 70,000 tonnes of sultanas every year. And Sultana Sam is a major contributor to that harvest. In a total area of almost 25 hectares, Sultana Sam devotes more than 20 hectares and over 27,000 vines to the Sultana crop. Although the hot, dry conditions in this part of the country are ideal for the dried fruit industry, they also mean that water is at a premium. And without irrigation from the mighty Murray River, the industry wouldn't survive. Up until recently, growers like Sultana Sam took their water on a roster system from large open channels fed by the Murray. Today, most channels have been replaced by a pipeline system into which water is pumped direct from the Murray. Through the use of tensiometers like these, which measure the moisture content of the soil, growers can tell in advance when the vines will need watering and when to order their water from the irrigation trust. On the required day, these valves are opened to allow the required amount of water to flow throughout the vineyard. The normal method being furrow irrigation. This patch of Sultana grapes is on sloping ground, and the sandy soil is easily eroded by this method. So overhead sprays are the answer. As well as reducing soil erosion, they help control salinity, which is a major problem along the Murray River. Drainage systems like these are also very important, draining the excess water, which often has a high salt content after passing through the area's saline soil, away from the roots of the vines and eventually into evaporation basins at Lake Hawthorne. Things haven't changed much over the years. At harvest time, Sultana Sam and every other grower in Sunraysia need all the help they can get. Between February and April, Sultana Sam is a hive of activity as the fruit is picked, dried and packed for shipment throughout Australia and many countries overseas. As well as the sultanas themselves, there are also good quantities of currants and raisins. In an apparently endless stream, the fruit is brought in buckets from the pickers and spread out on these special drying racks. An average set of racks can hold anything up to 1,500 buckets of fresh fruit, which, when dry, weighs around 3 tons. The smaller currant grapes are harvested first, as they take more time to dry. However, they need nothing more than the hot Mildura sun to complete the process. Because they're larger, the Sultana grapes would take longer to dry naturally, so nature has to be given a hand to speed things up a little. In the old days, this was done by dipping the fruit in large tubs of boiling caustic solution, so as to split the skin and allow the moisture in the grapes to escape more easily. Fortunately, those days are gone, and nowadays the fruit is spread straight onto the racks, then sprayed with a solution of potash and special dipping oil. After that, all it takes is sunshine, and there's no shortage of that around here. Natural drying time is between 9 and 14 days, depending on weather conditions. Once the fruit is dry enough, it's shaken from the racks into collecting trays. Special rack shaking machines like this are a big improvement on the days when each rack had to be individually shaken by hand. From the trays, the fruit is spread out onto plastic sheets on the ground, where it is often left for another couple of days under the sun to ensure maximum drying. Finally, a mechanical boxing machine rolls up each sheet, tipping the fruit into half-ton boxes, which are then taken away to be stored prior to being collected by the packing house. The major packing centre is at Irimple. Here, the fruit from Sultana Sam joins up with thousands of tonnes from the other Sunraysia growers and is packed after the most stringent quality control for shipment to markets both in Australia and overseas, including Europe, Canada, the United Kingdom, New Zealand and Japan. The harvest may be over for another year, but that doesn't mean that the Sunraysia growers can sit back and put their feet up. Over the next 2 months or so, the vines will be pruned by hand. If you've ever complained of having to do the roses in your garden, try to imagine what it's like doing 27,000 vines. And when those vines represent your year's income, each one needs to be attended with skill and care. Preparing the soil is yet another task which is vital to the success of next year's harvest. And this is nature's first reward for all that effort. For Sultana Sam and every other grower, bud burst heralds the start of yet another chapter in the miracle of Sunraysia. But even miracles need a helping hand, and early spraying is essential to protect the young buds from fungicide diseases caused by wet weather. And while all this is going on, growers like Sultana Sam must still find time to plan ahead. Here in the nursery, graftings and cuttings are carefully nurtured for the day when they will become the vineyards of the future and will take their place in the continuing success story of Sunraysia. For Sultana Sam, and for every grower in Sunraysia, it really is a never-ending story. As soon as one job is over, another one begins. And so it goes on right throughout the year. But for John Fitzgibbon and his family, it's a story to be proud of, and one which they're always more than willing to share.